Hey guys, welcome to today's video. We're gonna be doing week 3 power rankings for both the West and the Eastern region, and it's a little bit tricky this week. But I didn't want to do any power rankings for week 1, week 2. Um, One, because I didn't have the time, and two, there just wasn't enough information to kind of go on. For power rankings, for some people that's not fun, but I don't see a point in doing that when you're just kind of doing mostly speculation on how it's done. But, so, we're going to start off with the Eastern region. I think that's a little bit more cut and dry on how good the teams are over there. And what order they kind of rank. So these are the power rankings that I did for the preseason on what I thought each team was going to place before the season when they're going to place at the end of the season. So I actually boomed myself into thinking Atlanta Reign were going to be second, and then Shock were going to be the best team in the league. To be fair, in my defense, this might be Shock copium, but the Shock are still not in their practice facilities, as far as I'm aware, at the time of this recording. So I thought the Shock were going to be practice enough where I picked Atlanta to win in the first game where it'd be close, and then the Shock would just overall have a better season because I thought they had a slightly better, more flexible roster. But we're going to start with the East. Like I said, I feel like it's a little bit easier. Chengdu all the way at the bottom with 3 tier breaks because I don't think they're playing this year. And then if they do join, there's not going to be enough time for them to catch up to any of these teams. Maybe one of our lower teams, which is actually going to be the Seoul Dynasty. So I'm actually going to put at the bottom of APAC. I'm pull up Wikipedia real quick. We can look at the games that they've played recently. So Shanghai, they're not looking too good, and they only beat Seoul Dynasty, and Seoul Dynasty only got their win against the Seoul Infernal in week 1 in a extremely close game, which doesn't say much. It's the first week of the games, so I'm not really worried about that. But speaking of next is going to be Shanghai Dragons. Again, they beat Seoul, but other than that, they're not looking too great, and I'm kind of writing off Dynasty's win against the Infernal. Because I think it was just kind of week 1 shenanigans that we had going on. So I think Dynasty could make their way up to maybe like 4th or 3rd, but right now they're not clicking. But yeah, Shanghai only beat Dynasty, not much else. And that was in we're on Seoul, right? Yeah, so we're on Seoul, and they only beat Shanghai in the 2nd week, so not much to go off that. But these are the 2 worst teams in APAC right now. So we're actually going to remove the steer break. I don't think there's a team that's crazy much better. Actually, we might add a tier break here in a second. But for now, Dallas feel better than Shanghai and Dynasty. They beat both teams. But they lost to all these teams that are better than them. Maybe they'll pick it up soon, but only beat the teams that were below them. Only lost to the teams that were above them. Kind of makes sense. Where to put them? Up next is actually the Hangzhou Spark. So Hangzhou, there might be a tier break in between Dallas and Hangzhou actually, but I think we'll put the one there. I think these 3 teams are a lot better than these 3 teams. So there might even be a tier break right there. Like, Hangzhou's honestly that much better, but I'm not going to put any tier breaks in between these 6 teams because they're 6 teams, you know. There's not too much of a deficit. I mean, you could honestly put one in between here, here, and here, and it wouldn't be the worst tier list in the world. But Dallas Fuel, they're there. Hangzhou Spark. Unfortunately, the Leave Shy experiment isn't going the way that we were hoping it would. Hopefully, things start clicking through the season and end up here, because that's where I would like to see them, with how good their DPS line is. But up next is Guangzhou Charge. Jimmy fucks. I mean, Jimmy is pounding an APAC right now. And then, you know, the rest of Charge, you know, they're doing alright. But Jimmy is pounding. And then Soul Infernal is going to be on the top of the East. They are just the best team right now. I mean, they beat Guangzhou in a 5-map series. I mean, you could honestly make a claim that Guangzhou could be here. But we're just going to put Soul Infernal right there. I think these two teams are very interchangeable, depending on the argument you want to make. Alright, so up next we're going to go to the Western region. I'm going to actually remove this tier break from Vegas Eternal. Some of the teams that they're playing against, they are a little bit better than what we thought, and the teams above them, Vegas is actually playing a little bit closely. I would have liked to see full power Vegas versus London, but you know, that's unfortunate. Internet issues that cause it to be a pretty easy win for London. An undeserved win, some might say. But so we got Vegas at the bottom. I'm gonna give him the tier break removal. I think they might have played London a little bit closer if they did that. Valiant. I'm actually gonna move them up, because up next I'm gonna put the Spitfire here. Yes, Spitfire got a map of Florida. That was kind of a cheese win with the Symmetra Reinhardt TP stuff that they were doing. Bunch of shenanigans. I think Spitfire is probably the second worst team. I think if they were to play the Valiant again, I think they already played the Valiant, but they actually won. They beat him in the Pro-Am, but they haven't faced him in the actual season. I think the Valiant might actually be better than London. But I think after that we do have the Valiant, because I think New York did beat the Valiant. I think New York are slightly better than the Valiant as well, just the way they look. Load, please. Thank you. Alright. Yeah, so they did beat the Valiant. I mean, they are a little bit better. But up next, a fall from grace from mid-table down here. Toronto Defiant. They went to map 5 in New York. They've been getting dominated by the likes of Florida and other teams where they should keep it a little bit competitive. Hopefully against the Valiant they don't struggle this upcoming week. And then another team that hopefully doesn't struggle against the Valiant, all the way from the top, all the way close to the bottom. It's going to be San Francisco Shock. And then we'll put a tier break right here. And then we'll talk about this group of teams right here. These 4 teams right here. From the Valiant to the Shock. So, I think the Valiant could actually come up with their first 2 wins of the season against these 2 teams that seemed absolutely boomed. That should not be here. They should be, you know, Shock should be up here somewhere. You know, maybe as low as this, but should have been as high as that. Toronto should have been maybe as low as this, and then maybe like somewhere here maybe. But unfortunately, that's not the case. Toronto seems boomed. Kluge tweeting after his matches, a bunch of smiley faces like, "It's okay, guys, don't worry, it's okay." They don't seem okay. Shock. God, they should not be going 5 maps. They should not be losing 3-0 to the Washington Justice and almost losing 3-0 to New York. I mean, New York could have 3-0'd them if they didn't C9. I don't know exactly how that fight would have turned out. It looked pretty 50-50. But a 50-50 is not where you want to be when you're on last fight 2 maps down. It's match point. You do not want to be in that situation for the Shock. But the Shock did play better on map 4 and 5 against New York. And then they did beat the Defiant, but there's no argument for them to go any higher than this. I mean, I think this is actually a very good spot to put the Shock. I'm hoping they bounce back. I'm hoping they can get them in the practice facility soon, but it's not looking very good. So this area is a little bit of a mess right here. So there's a few things that we can do. We can move Boston. Actually right here. So I think Washington Justice might actually be the next team here. Because they're beating all the teams below them. But they're not seeming to beat any of these teams above them. And then, because if we look at Washington's schedule, they're 4-2 right now. But if we look at their recent matches, they lost to Boston 3-0. And they lost to Houston, which Houston, I understand. But the Boston losses really kind of just solidifies where they are. They are the team that will beat up the teams that are below them, unless Shock and Defiant can get it together, but they will lose to the teams above them. If we look at the Titans, I think Titans are another team that we want to talk about here in a second. They beat Boston. Oh, they're actually not looking that good. Oh, they're 2-2, and they lost to the Reign in Florida. That's actually not that bad. They beat the Valiant and Boston. So right now they're here. Vancouver has a lot to prove still. Who do they play next? I don't know actually who they play next. I don't think it's good. I don't think there's any way to see, but yeah, this is just the same thing. Played matches. So yeah, Titans have a lot to prove. They do have to beat a couple more of these teams below them. Have to beat the likes of Washington, Shock, Toronto, and then whoever else, and then they have to put up a good fight against Gladiators, which I think is actually who they face next. Or it's Houston. It's one of those two teams, I think. But no, I think it's the Gladiator. Yeah, it's the Gladiators that I believe they have to face next, and they have to make it competitive against the Gladiators if they want to stay in the spot right here. Boston, it might have just been off week for them, but losing to the Mayhem and the Reign, that's not too bad. But actually, this might be surprising for some people. I am moving the Mayhem down here, which, if you think about it just a little bit, actually does make sense. I mean, Spitfire got a cheese map off of them. They went 5 maps with Valiant. They lost to the Gladiators. I mean, they're still looking really good. Like, in the actual standings, they're like right here, basically, if you just look at numbers. But if you actually watch them play, they're probably right about here. And then the Gladiators. The Gladiators are playing well. They're just playing well. I mean, they lost to Atlanta, but everybody's losing to Atlanta. And then they lost to Houston. The two teams that I put above them. They lost to, and then they beat Florida, and then they beat Toronto. I mean, other than the one map to Toronto, I think they're doing pretty good. But Houston, just the second best team. I mean, they're the best team that's not Atlanta Reign. And then Atlanta Reign's just going to keep that tier break right there because Atlanta Reign is just a behemoth. I mean, they're beating everybody below them. They've beaten Outlaws. I believe they beat the Gladiators. They're 6-0 right now. Yeah, they 3-0'd the Gladiators. They 3-1'd Houston. 3-0 to Valiant. That looks pretty good. I mean, 3-0 New York. That looks pretty good. 3-0 Shock. 3-0 Titans. That look pretty good. I mean, they're just dominating the league right now. The only team that kind of stands a chance is Florida, because Florida probably plays the best organized play out of the top 4 teams in NA, besides Atlanta. I mean, these three teams right here, that Florida probably plays the best organized play. Like Gladiators try to make it scrappy, and then just have the DPS just kind of pop off. Houston, they just kind of rely on their star power to brute force their wins. But Atlanta is just so much better. I think Florida's the only chance that we have left, really. With the Shock and the Defiant not being able to remain competitive, Atlanta Reign is just going to dominate. This could be an undefeated season for them, maybe. If it keeps looking like this. If Sombra doesn't get any nerfs or reworks or anything. If, you know, maybe a Junker Queen meta. I mean, we could see somebody pop off and beat Atlanta, but right now what it's looking like, we might see an undefeated Atlanta Reign season, because the second best team is not even making it that close, really, against Atlanta. I mean, everybody else is getting 3-0'd. I mean, the Gladiators are probably the third, fourth best team in the league. I mean, the only chance, again, is the Mayhem to actually take a win off the Atlanta Reign, and from what I know, that game is not anytime soon. Maybe week 6, but it's not looking to be in week 4 at least, and maybe not even week 5. But it could be week 5 or 6 that we see Florida. I mean, Florida's got to get a little bit together. I mean, they're dropping maps to some of these lower end teams. They got to clean up their play in order to beat Atlanta, but Atlanta is just gonna dominate. Lip is probably the best player in the league. Unfortunately, Proper and friends aren't looking too good, so Atlanta's looking really good with having the best backline in the league, and probably the best player in the league with the Lip. And then you have Stalker. I mean, Stalker, I don't know if anybody's talking about him as much, but he's probably playing the best Tracer in the game right now. I mean, there's guys like, you know, Proper, Kevster, but Stalker, with just how much of a powerhouse this Atlanta Reign team is, looking the best. Donghack's looking like a masterclass on the Winston, especially where he just lives with 30 health every time and gets all the value he can absolutely extract from the Winston. And then Hawk is Hawk. Hawk is one of the best off-tank players in the league, so, I mean, what are you going to do against Atlanta Reign? Not much. I would like to see Atlanta Reign play, like, Soul Inferno, Guangzhou Charge, in the mid-season madness. I think Atlanta Reign still probably clears all those teams, even though the Infernal is the best team, and Charge is, like, this close to being better than Infernal. They just had to win that map 5. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. I hope y'all have a good day, and like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Peace out.